Hi, I'm Mary Crowe with Sanson Properties. I'm here with Steve Harler of Mid-Atlantic Dock Builders. Hi, Steve. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure being here and excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, we're here to provide value and to support and help our new neighbors coming to the lake.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've been living at the lake for 10 years and I just love the lake. And so this business and this conversation is really us trying to find a way to give back to the community and give information to folks that are new to Lake Anna as well.
hmm Yeah, we want to see everybody enjoy the lake just as we do. I'm here so that I can help future homeowners really go through the process of what's important when you're buying here. So I don't want your dream boathouse to become a nightmare or to have you have frustrations. So there's some important steps that you should be taking in order to make it smooth, make it fun, and you be able to get your dream boathouse. Steve, can you tell us a little bit more about you and how you even came to doing this business?
Well, and I'm sure you've seen this in your business, but over the last 4 years, there's just been tremendous growth at Lake Anna. And right during the beginning of the pandemic, I launched a company called Mid-Atlantic Water Sports, which was a boat dealership, and didn't have anything to do with docks at that time. And we saw this major demand for boats, and all these people were moving in, buying properties, building homes, looking for docks, and needing a boat. Well, it became a natural progression with some relationships I had built around a lake for some folks that were looking to get into the dock building business, that the demand we were seeing for boats kind of matched and mirrored the demand for boat houses. And so we launched a year after Mid-Atlantic Water Sports, we launched Mid-Atlantic Dock Builders. And it's been a great journey, and it's been a great joy. I ended up, the first boathouse we built was my personal boathouse. We did all our, testing and got all the kinks out on my dock. And ever since then, it's just been a passion to help people have the same joy that I had once that boathouse was completed at my house, to help them have that same joy. So,
Fantastic. Fantastic. That's awesome. Well, and this is certainly a boathouse to be proud of for sure.
thank you.
Mhm. So, when you go under contract with a property that's lakefront that you're planning on building a boathouse on, the first step you need to do after you get under contract is contact Steve for a site visit. Steve, would you mind telling people what you do at a site visit and why it's such a crucial part of the purchasing process?
Absolutely. It's important to understand that, when you buy a property, there's a certain spot on your property that technically you won't own. And the governing entity of Lake Anna owns that property. And we want to assess A, can we build something? B, what can we build? And so we're going to assess how much water frontage there is. We're going to assess if it's in a cove. Is there, we're going to cut it up into a third of a cove 3 times and see if in your third of a cove, if we can squeeze something in there. And we're also going to assess your neighbors on both sides extension lines to make sure that within 15 feet of those extension lines, we can build a dock or boathouse for you. So we're looking at that. And the biggest thing that I always ask is if it's accessible in that due diligence phase in the real estate transaction. If I can get my hands on a plat, that's going to tell me a big piece of the story.
Yes, the extension lines are really important because that gives you the guidance of how far out you can go and what and how wide you can go in a boathouse. So along with the a plat, I would imagine that if there's any previous approved boathouse plans, you'd like to see those. Do you also like to look at HOA documents in terms of any restrictions that are there?
Yeah, oftentimes it's important to know what kind of HOA covenants there are. There are HOAs that permit 2-level docks and HOAs that don't permit 2-level docks, that kind of thing. But also to know if there's already pre-established site plans that would show where the boathouse can go and the size of that boathouse. And there are several HOAs around Lake Anna that have those established.
So with that note, know before you close. Okay? That's the most important thing. Now, Steve, can you tell us, with the site visit, what does it cost?
For Mid-Atlantic dock builders, well, I'm here full time. So if you give me a reason to go hang out on the waterfront piece of property anywhere on the lake and it gets me, around the water, I'll go. We don't charge anything for a site visit.
You love helping people, that's for sure.
I do. And I love getting my lake fix. So it gets me that too, but I do love helping people.
So, just a side note, I've seen Steve get into the water to do his site visits, to know what the depths of the water is. So he's all in. So it's a real treat when you have him to your dream property. And he's the expert. I can tell you that Steve knows the ins and outs of the governing body here. He knows their regulations, which is most important. But more importantly, he also knows about the code says each of the counties. We have 3 counties that make up Lake Anna, and he's very familiar with that. So he's the expert here. And if he's willing to do it for free, make sure this is one of your do's. The don'ts. Don't assume because you have a plot that shows that you have 100 linear feet of waterfront that you can do whatever you want. So,
Yeah.
do your due diligence. Okay? Steve, can you tell us anything else about the process? It can be lengthy depending on like where you are located on the lake. So, you go to the site, they tell you what their wish list is, and you can tell them whether it's feasible or not.
That's
Pretty
right.
much. Right. That's only part of the process, you all. So after that, can you tell them a little bit more about how they contact Krista and when after they close? You have to close first. What are the next steps?
So it's important to understand that, once you close and you now want to start doing any sort of work on your shoreline, you got to have a construction and use agreement in place for that. So there's a process for that. You can reach out to Mid-Atlantic Dock Builders, and Christina will help you kind of learn the journey of being able to do any work on your shoreline. We'll help walk you through that process, but you got to have a construction and use agreement. And then from there, we'll take your site plan and your plat, and we can put together some proposed concepts and ideas on within the confines of what you can do, and help you have the dock of your dreams.
That sounds wonderful. So, Steve, some of my clients have concerns about water depths. Can you go into a little bit more details about water depth?
Yeah, depth is critical, obviously, because you got to be able to get your boat in and out, or your jet ski, or whatever you got. We are always looking for depth as a critical part of what can be done, and I advise, because the lake does fluctuate, not as much as a lot of other lakes throughout the U.S., but Lake Anna does have a tendency to fluctuate a little bit. So I advise folks to have a minimum of 3 to 4 feet of depth on the front of their boat slip and on the back of their boat slip. So the end of their dock, we're really trying to achieve at least 5 to 6 feet of depth. If we can get to 8, that's a grand slam. That's awesome. And believe it or not, you can have too much depth. You start getting into 15 to 20 feet of depth, it can become a little bit more problematic. There's going to be a little bit more movement in your dock. And so if we can achieve somewhere between 6 and 10 feet, that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. So, Steve, I'd like you to give us some examples of different docks that you've worked on that were fantastic or problematic, so that we can find out how to navigate those opportunities.
I think a common scenario, because there's been a lot of growth at Lake Anna over the last couple of years, a common scenario and a perfect example was 6 months ago. A couple bought a house on the private side of the lake. It was tucked back in a cove, and they'd already closed on it at this point. So I went in there, and there were some challenges because, again, you can't take up more than a third of a cove. They were very close to where we could build to stay in that third, was very close to their neighbor's extension line. So at that point, I advised that and I got them in touch with several different options of surveyors they could call. And they got a surveyor out there, was able to put together a site plan for them, using their plat, going out, taking measurements, and was able to let them know, hey, you're able to build a single slip dock with a small roof with a 12-inch overhang, and basically had to reverse engineer from there. So in that scenario, and sometimes I just call, we need to call for backup and get a surveyor out there. And we've run into that quite a bit. And we built their dock, and they're very happy with it, and they can get in and out. They're dealing with about 3.5 feet of depth on the front side of their boat. So unless there's been a major drought, they're usually pretty good to go.
That's awesome. That's really fantastic. So could you also tell us what the building process is? How long does it normally take to, depending on county you're in,
Right.
how long does it take?
Well, once we get a approval back from the power company, from there on the plans that we have, we submit it to the county, and depending on the county that you're in, can fluctuate in turnaround time on getting those plans back and what their needs are. And so from there, you typically we're in a position within 2 to 3 months that your dock is buildable. We have the documents we need to be able to build your dock.
So, Steve, let's say the permitting is okay and you're ready to start. Can you tell us how long that process is? How long do those people have to wait to enjoy their new boathouse?
Well, A, we know that they want to enjoy their boathouse, and B, they don't want us moving in with them, so they don't want us there forever. So typically, if they're doing a single slip boathouse, something pretty standard, it may only be a 3 or 4 week build. Something that's 2 or 3 slips can get into the 6-week time frame. Now, if you're dealing with a dock like this, it's a second level with a roof on the second level. We've had docks like this take up to 10 to 12 weeks. So
Worth the wait.
worth the wait, though. Absolutely worth the wait, for sure.
Well, fantastic. Fantastic. So I'm talking to buyers right now. If you are looking at raw land to build your dream house and your dream boathouse, it's critical during your study period, and please give yourself at least 30 days because people are busy and it takes time to organize these things. It's just as important to contact Steve and have him do a site visit as it would be to have a house builder. It's really critical. Please don't miss this step. Don't just assume that because you have a waterfront property, you can do whatever you want. Take the step during your study period. So, Steve, would you mind discussing some examples of where you've helped homeowners?
Yeah, actually, it's funny enough. My kid's last basketball game in Mineral was this past Saturday. And on the way to the game, I got a call from a real estate agent that wanted me to go look at a piece of property just to see if it was possible to have a dock there on my way back from the game, because it's a small town, so I was able to pull up and pull into the neighborhood, walk down to the shoreline, take a look, and give a professional opinion. Now, I can't, I stamp it and say that this is for sure 100%. I would say you need a surveyor for that, but was able to give a professional opinion and help advise that real estate agent on what they should probably be considering with their client. And so I do it all the time.
That's fantastic. So you really help the new community. Perfect.
Absolutely.
So, Steve, do you mind going into detail about how you figure out how much boathouse a homeowner is able to build?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have found that, a lot of times when people are looking at a property, you don't really know how much waterfront you have, which is why that plat's super important. And once we get that plat and we can identify how much waterfront you have, the rule is basically 65 to 100 feet of waterfront, 65 to 99. For every foot of waterfront you have, you can multiply that times 10. So, for example, if you have 80 feet of waterfront, you can build up to an 800 square foot structure over water. Anything from 100 to 300 feet of waterfront, or 100 to 299 feet of waterfront, you can build up to a 2,000 square foot structure. And anything over 300 feet of waterfront, you can build up to a 3,000 square foot structure over water, or multiple structures equaling a total of 3,000 square feet. Crazy enough, I had a buddy of mine who was buying a property over on the private side in Rock Island, and bought the house, sent me an idea of a boathouse he wanted. It was about 1,200 square feet, single slip dock. And we went and looked at the property together, and I walked down there. I was like, you could get a larger boathouse if you wanted, because I knew he wanted something bigger. And he's like, I don't think I have enough waterfront. And he thought he only had like 180 feet of waterfront. Well, I was pulled the plat and then I ran measurements. He had 430 feet of waterfront. It was incredible. I was like, man. So we were able to recreate his boathouse for him and build a much nicer dock, or much larger dock, I should say. But anyway, so it's definitely important to understand that piece of the business.
It's nice to have those type of success stories for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. I can tell you. Usually it's the other way around, but yeah, sometimes people get surprised.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why it's important to do your due diligence, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So, Steve, we talked an awful lot about personal boathouses. Let's please look at community boathouses and docks. I mean, that is an asset that's really important to HOAs. And I know personally it's important to do several crucial steps. One is maintenance, at least once or twice a year, inspections. Can you tell me how you do that? How do you help HOAs with that step?
We really have two different scenarios there, right? We have for common areas and community docks, we have repairs and maintenance. So could be that we need to go maintenance some boat lifts or replace boat lifts altogether, or it could just be that there's issues with the deck that we really just need to go in there and shore some things up. Now on the assessment side, when we're going to go do inspections and assessments, that's a bigger study period. And so there is a little bit of an investment for community docks and for POAs and HOAs. We do have a lot of extensive research that needs to be done to determine maybe the lifespan of that dock, how much they can expect to get out of it. When is it going to be, as they're building their budget, when should they plan for that replacement? And we can even talk about things that they can do along the way to keep that dock longer until they got the budget to be able to go full on replacement. And then we can go in and assess each individual slip, because depending on the POA covenants, knowing the value of a slip versus the value of that common walkway and the delineation there is really important for them. So we go in and we put all that together in a report and we send it on, and what they do with it from there is that's we'll let them handle that from there.
Right. But you're giving them crucial information for planning purposes. And that has to give the community, the residents, a peace of mind that their number one asset in the community area is being taken care of, and planning is underway and in consideration for long-term projects and funding.
Right.
Very cool.
The common area and the community areas, safety is priority number one, but making sure that the structures are in place that help lock in and stabilize the value of those homes and those HOAs are also very critical too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I mean that makes or breaks a community area with it being, it can add value if it's beautiful, rebuilt and in good condition.
For sure.
Whereas if it's not well maintained, that could turn away some potential buyers.
Yeah, one of the tips I would also give communities and HOAs and POAs when they're assessing repairs or looking at an entirely new dock, that the difference between lumber decking and composite and PVC decking, the price difference is kind of shrunk. So for longevity and in protecting that investment, we are advising, this is just a total side note, but we are advising these common areas and these neighborhoods to go with the composite material versus the old school way of doing it, decking. And then of course we do floating docks all the time as well, which protecting that investment so you don't have to do this again in 20 years, right?
And the maintenance is minimal compared
Right.
to wood.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Excellent. So Steve, I just really want to thank you for your time, your expertise, and your wonderful knowledge that you're sharing with potential homeowners here. I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank you for tuning in and listening to our mini series. And listen, if you have questions for either Steve or I, we're here to help. So please feel free to reach out to us. But again, thank you for tuning in. So once again, understand the do's and do nots and know before you close.
Docks all the time as well, which protecting that investment so you don't have to do this again in 20 years, right?
And the maintenance is minimal compared to
Right.
wood.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
For
Oh,
sure.
excellent. So, Steve, I got another question for you. So, what counts as square footage when you're planning a boathouse?
I don't want to get too in the weeds on this. It can be a complicated answer as it relates to your walkout, and keeping your walkout underneath the 5 feet wide and all that stuff. But to keep it simple, it's just whatever's covering the lake. So we can't build anything. So if the limit's 2,000 square feet, we can't build anything over 2,000. We can't build 2,001 foot over water coverage. And that includes, and this is important when you're designing, that includes the actual roof overhangs. So we may have decking that only covers, 1,960 feet. But once you include that roof and that roof has 24-inch overhangs on it, you may exceed that 2,000. So we need to make sure we're designing to stay compliant with the power company and do things, the way that they allow us to do it. And understanding that square footage coverage is critical.
Fantastic. So, Steve, we talked about the space, the square footage. Is there any restrictions on going up?
Yes, there are some height restrictions on how
Mm.
tall the structure can be, and that would be combined between the bottom level. If you go with a second level deck, and then of course, like this, you see here a roof on the second level, you have a height restriction, so we have to stay underneath of that. And then again, sometimes an HOA may say you can't do a second level dock at all, or they say you can do a second level dock, but you can't exceed 22 feet in height. Therefore, it eliminates the ability to put a roof on the second level. Personal opinion, personal preference. July and August on the lake get really, really hot. So not having shade on your second level is kind of a bummer, but it just depends. And so there are some height restrictions for sure we have to abide by,
Cool. So, know before you build.
for sure.
So, Steve, I just really want to thank you for your time, your expertise, and your wonderful knowledge that you're sharing with potential homeowners here. I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank you for tuning in and listening to our mini series. And listen, if you have questions for either Steve or I, we're here to help. So please feel free to reach out to us. But again, thank you for tuning in. So once again, understand the do's and do nots and know before you close.